Good morning, everybody. How are you? Welcome. So nice to have you here. Grab the coffee if that's your thing, or whatever your thing is. Grab a pleasant beverage, a tea, a water, some calorie-free something, and then you dial in on a fasting space. And if a fasting space isn't your thing today, hey, no big deal. Just come and hang out either way. Have a little chill vibe. It's like a coffee shop, right? You can go to a coffee shop, you can hang out with a friend, and you don't have to get a coffee. It's all good, but we'll dial in on, does it feel like we've turned a little bit of a corner, Pat is here. Good morning. Happy Monday. Says the season has begun. Yeah, it feels like that to me. Here in Madison and Wisconsin, fall definitely in the air. The trees are so beautiful, and the weather's kind of turned, and it feels like, we are heading in the home stretch of 2025. We started doing the daily steps with 82 days, and it felt so long. And then all of a sudden, here we are in the 50s. 59 days, 59 steps, each day a step, and we'll be heading on together into 2026. And so, do you feel like, are you getting on a groove? Are we moving toward it in a good way? Or are there specific things that you are struggling with? Of course, each of these things are what they are, and we celebrate the good things, and then we troubleshoot if there's difficulty. Because we've said, right, like a path, we're on a journey, and most paths to somewhere interesting, right? Picture a mountain path. You want to get up to the mountaintop. Usually not a straight shot, Take the gondola, maybe. Don't we wish? The gondola of health, just take us right to the pinnacle. What is that exactly? Closest that I have come to in my medical experience so far is to combine multiple good health things, every good health thing that we can, working on getting good sleep if we're struggling with that, making that a priority, leaning into our mental health, journaling, using that, some meditation space to try to unlock disease as teacher. I was talking about that last year a lot. If we're struggling with something is off in the body. What can we learn from it? That's like the obstacle is the way on our path. We encounter barriers in our life as we're trying to get somewhere. It's like little puzzles. We did that the other week. Clues to the weight loss puzzle. We're solving problems on our journey through. So we mix these practices, the gentle movement, so good for the body and the mind, and choosing only the healthiest foods to the greatest extent possible. Means like actually choosing the healthy foods, trying to keep as much of the processed synthetic stuff out. Might be the most important thing. And then dialing in some fasting space is what we try to do. To me, fasting space is like the lens that brings all these other good practices together. And then that's like where a lot of power on tap in a fasting space. That's why I say we always approach it in a very, very gentle, thoughtful way. So heading through into the holiday season, the end of the year push. Did you make it through Halloween? How was it? I like Halloween. I do, especially with little kids, and now my kids, not so little, and no grandkids. 3 grandkids, all in on the season. So exciting. It'd be so much fun. I sat on my out on my patio handing out. I didn't hand out candy this year. See, this is the thing. Wow, it gets harder for me. Like every day I'm dialing in, trying to help people. Okay, get all the sugar out, get the processed food out. So like I love Halloween. I love all the creativity of kids and like seeing the costumes and how much fun people having running around. I just love it. But then it is kind of a horror show for me, just metabolically, like just because it's like candy everywhere, and I'm seeing kids with like buckets of candy, and I just am looking at their little pancreases going around the neighborhood and watching the insulin, squirting out, and I'm like, oh, poor people, like, I hope you do okay. That's what I keep thinking. I hope you kids realize we are in metabolic netherworld, and we gotta like, don't enjoy that too much. Like, just realize balance. I'm thinking to myself as I'm sitting there, but I don't want to spoil the fun. But I handed out fruit leathers. I thought that was like a compromise, hand out fruit leathers to kids. And it was very interesting. Like, some kids just were so happy about it. And they were just like, oh, I love fruit leathers. This is awesome. Can I take 2? And then some kids, of course, were like, what's this? Like, where's my Twix bar? But I had fun. I had fun with it, so. Yeah, this is the thing. I want to do like a series of like fasting and longevity, and I remember, I'm sitting here in Madison. I was at a lecture. Some of, people have different ethical considerations of it. We have a primate lab here at the university, and you say the ethics of some of this, but they do all these calorie restriction studies on these poor monkeys, and they've published, for what it's worth, fascinating studies of longevity in monkeys about how much they eat. And I went to the primate lab because I'm interested in all these things, metabolism, and monkey live 20 to 30% longer eating I think it's like approximately 25% less than they normally would. The very lean monkeys live a long, long time. And there were 2 points that I thought were so interesting in that presentation. This was years ago now. One was that the calorie-restricted monkeys were less happy than the non-calorie restricted monkeys, however they measure monkey happiness. I don't know. I didn't get that into detail. So that was one thing. And then the second point that they made was like, but isn't it amazing? Like, these monkeys get less illness, they have less disease, their hair is better, like their eyesight stays better, like all these things are better. It's just too bad we can't do this in people. That's what they kept saying. And to me, like, the way they calorie restrict the monkeys, there's no monkey fasting. Okay, they're just every meal they're eating frequently, but calorie restricted, never as much as they want. And I was like, this is the reason you can't do this in people, because this is not a nice way to do it. It's not nice for monkeys, and it's not nice for people. And I don't really support primate research like that. I don't like it, but I do support voluntary human research that's done in a thoughtful way where people want to do it. But we can learn stuff from all of this. I say, like, fasting is such a nicer way to do it. You get calorie restriction. Do you get calorie restriction fasting? Absolutely you do. But you get it in a physiologic way where you can still eat normal meals, right? So this is the thing. The poor monkeys never get to eat a normal meal. It's the same thing of like people who are dieting. Tell me if this is your experience. Most people who are just dieting, who is on a standard process, which is calorie restriction without fasting, that is not a physiologic way to do it. And it creates both physical and emotional, mental barriers. Whereas, like, if you're always dieting, you can never eat a nice, satisfying meal. You see, that's mentally taxing in and of itself. That's why it's so hard to stay with a standard diet. Whereas, like, I just want to eat a normal meal from time to time. And then if you're really dialed in on the psychology of it, like, people end up guilt tripping themselves when you just have a normal meal. And you say, like, it creates all this negative cycle. So, because, like, and then also when people are chronically calorie restricted, like we talk about, you can get metabolic slowing from that. People, you're kind of chasing the tail. So that can be very frustrating. You end up in a cycle where, say, I'm really working hard on this diet, and people they're really calorie restricting on it. They're creating bad physiology in the body where things are slowing down to match it. We're guilt tripping ourselves when we eat a normal meal, and then we're guilt tripping ourselves to say, oh, you could always eat less, because if you're always eating little bits, you could always eat less. And this is where fasting comes in and solves a lot of those problems. You can't eat less than nothing. So opening up a big space, you can actually feel really positive about that. You say, I'm just being like ultra aggressive here. Like, look at this. I cleared out all this space. Really powerful concept to do. And then the body understands that when the food is out of the way, then the body's like, oh, I know what we're doing here. We're just going to access the storage. See, physiologically, that's what it is doing. It's not creating, you can feel the tension, right, in a standard diet. It's like the body has stored energy for when we're trying to make it without food in a difficult spell, but then all these food's coming in, but then not quite enough. So you see this tension. Open up some fasting space, a much nicer way to do it. And then what we're trying to do in this show, right, my little fasting space program, like dial in the mindset so that we can flow through it and be happy, not like monkeys in some sick experiment, right? Like that actually the fasting path is a way to peace and contentment and mental health and wellness and well-being. That's the only way I ever want people to do it. I don't want people struggling in any fashion. And then, of course, struggle happens in life, right? And so, but how do we approach it in a way where we can use these tools as a way to move through and overcome, break through barriers, and minimize our struggle and use the struggle to actually propel us forward? That's the way that I only want people doing it. We live and learn. That's what I say. Everything is a learning opportunity. So however things are going, say, hey, this is a human experience that I had, and now we're back on track. And especially now we're in like really like just this exciting season. Get excited. Like we have like a great opportunity here to move forward in health and have a good time doing it. And I want people having every good experience they want. Great times with the grandkids, great times with the family, great food experiences that we can enjoy, and then use a fasting practice, right, to balance it all out, either within a day, like if dinner's like the big important thing with a family, I have whatever you want, right? Maybe you open up fasting space in the rest of the day to balance it out, or you say, hey, fasting isn't for the holiday, I'll balance it out the day before, the day after, kind of bookending the experience. Or on a weekly level, like you can zoom out, say, hey, this week I'm kind of having break week. You don't have to intentionally destroy yourself, but say, hey, I'm not going to dial in on the fasting too much. No big deal. But maybe the 2 weeks on the other side of each of it, you say, hey, this is like intentional intensity. Intentional intensity is a phrase I really like. Like, I'm very much, as we talk through it, I very much help people chill out, calm down, take the pressure off. And that is always like there. But like intentional intensity, it's also okay to like really go for something, and like amp yourself up and hit it and say, you know what, I'm going to really dive in and give it my best shot. And always, like we're saying, always have grace with yourself. If you say it didn't work out the way I want, like we just learn from it. Like you learn from it. So this is like truly what a journey is, right? A journey is a process, and we have to go through it all. No gondola to the top of the health mountain. Got to walk up the path. And then it's the learning along the way, right? That when you get to the top, you go back and you look and you say, hey, look what we worked through, right? Look for what we struggled through and made it. So bringing some intensity to that is okay. And like part of the journey may be realizing, how do I actually do that? Like, how do I bring intensity to a situation thoughtfully where I can have fun with it? It gives me energy. It's powering me forward without stressing me out. There's always like a balance. Absolutely. Don't procrastinate following the indulgence. That's the thing. So I talk to people a lot of times about a holiday or any kind of special experience or just even any random thing that came up, because it doesn't even have to be just a holiday. Say, hey, here's just an experience that came, whatever it is, and enjoy it. Like, I just tell people, don't beat yourself up about it, but don't let it derail you either, right? Don't guilt trip yourself. Don't feel bad about it. You had an experience, it happened, and you can enjoy it. And you can remember it. This is part of the way to stay on track, is just remember it, right? Just say, hey, I just had this experience, and isn't it great? You can still derive joy and value from an indulgence after it's over, right? But you say, it's like keeping your eyes on the prize, right? Keeping your eyes on the path, keeping the train on the track. In general, like if the indulgence is all the time, you're going to get on a different track, right? We were saying like we're trying to walk to Minneapolis, but we're on the path to Chicago, right? So every path, if we're moving in a direction, every step does not have to be 100% in our direction, but we're wanting to keep our variance in the general direction. And so that's the thing. People, if you say, one thing is like a variation, and then like 2 is a trend, right? And by 3, like now we're starting to build a new habit. So like that's kind of the balance with it. Be mindful of it, aware of it, enjoy it, use the enjoyment to say, hey, let's like use that and just kind of power us back on the track. Maybe just writing about it. I would say if you're really struggling in that sort of space, just to write about it, non-judgmentally, like, here is what is happening. We've been going through the book. I'm going to dive in a little passage again with you today, Thinking Fast and Slow. I'm loving this because I'm trying to help everybody get into the psychology. Like, how is the brain working? Why do we make the decisions that we do? And how do we shape our experience to the greatest extent, so that ideally we get into a flow state where we can move through a space without struggle. And this is kind of the process that we've gone through of trying to merge this book with the other book. I'm kind of balancing it out. Very creative, artistic book about how we kind of get out. We got the left brain sort of perspective, really analytical. And then the right brain, very creative, to try to solve these little puzzles, that we're working through on our way. So that's how I'm balancing it out. But we've seen how much our environment impacts our decision-making, how we use, mental simplifications to try to preserve our mental capital as much as possible, right? We've talked about, okay, we have a finite amount of, willpower, that system 2 thinking that can build us up. And so I'll share, we'll take another step forward in this book today, which is that, okay, we're coming to a space, like a decision, some sort of situation we're trying to solve. And so one of the things that our brain will do as we're reaching a space, you can think like each situation we have is like a question, right? And it might be a difficult question. That question could be posed as an emotional situation, right? So a question isn't just, a logic puzzle in a book, right? A question could be like, hey, how do I navigate this situation? And it could be a complex situation. This is the type of thing that we want to maybe dial in for the holidays, right? You can imagine a complex situation like, my sister-in-law and mother and brother, as everybody is here and we're eating these sorts of things, and there's some things I don't want, but there's these social dynamics, and all these sorts of things. Like whatever the situation is, one of the things this is pointing out is that we will subconsciously answer an easier question than the one we were asked. And this is something to really think into. We don't fully answer the complex question because this is the system 1. We kind of flow in. We say, oh, there's an easier question that might give us the same answer. He calls it a heuristic, right? It's just like a mechanism. Let's answer the easier question. It's like a 90% probability you'll get us through, and we'll just go with that, and then we don't have to withdraw from our mental capital. Here's how he puts it. A remarkable aspect of our mental life is that we're rarely stumped. The normal state of mind is that you have intuitive feelings and opinions about almost everything that comes our way. Whether you like or dislike people, you know long before you know much about them, or you trust or distrust strangers without knowing why. You feel, or you have an opinion about whether an enterprise is bound to succeed without analyzing it. And whether you state them or not, you often have answers to questions that you don't completely understand. You rely on evidence that you can neither explain nor defend. And he proposes, this is what he proposes, that we generate intuitive opinions on complex matters. If a satisfactory answer to a hard question is not quickly found, System 1 will find a related question that's easier, and it will just answer that. And the example that they give, which I thought was very applicable, it's like, how happy are you with your life these days? That would be the hard question, right? Because it's like, that's deep, right? It's complex, you know? The way we substitute would be just like the easier question. What is my mood right now, right? A much easier question to answer. So like they've studied this. I won't go through all the studies they did. Like they're trying to say, how happy are you with your life these days? People go through to a surrogate answer, which is just like in general, people in the studies tend to just be based on what their mood is right now. And they manipulate people in the studies. Like they get happy people taking the test, tend to rate their life as better, right? And just based on that moment. Whereas people who've been kind of primed in this negative space, rating their quality of life scores lower. So it's just very interesting to think also about these priming effects when we're thinking, because of course, you know, we have a health goal, right? We're trying to be healthy. We're trying to seek after longevity, right? And like these big sort of things, longevity, health, wellness, that's leading into a total wellness space, finding a mental space of peace, contentment, true satisfaction and happiness in life, you know, something everybody trying to find. Very harder certainly to find that if you're not in a healthy space. So we're trying to do all these things. You measure, we try to think about our total quality of life and how are we with our mood. Well, how we answer every question, every experience in life, going to have the potential of having that sort of influence where we're staying in this more superficial level without getting to that deeper sort of level. This, when we think about, okay, when we're coming to a critical decision point like that, oh, here's the crux of the thing, like we're saying, people bringing candy bars into my house that I didn't want, and now they're there, is like that's a tricky space to navigate. Sometimes we'll answer the easier question that might be there, which is like, you know, see what it is for you, but potentially, how do I just get through this situation without conflict and everyone can be happy, right? You know, which might be a fine thing to do, might solve a lot of problems, but might not be the thing that is ultimately taking us in the direction that we want. We think, okay, we got our mental capital account, how we have our willpower balance, right? And how we are using our limited supply of available mental capital to really move us in the most thoughtful direction. That's System 2, he says in this book. System 2 can reject this simplification, right? And it can look to modify it, incorporate other information, try to answer the most difficult system. But it will tend to be lazy and will often follow the path of least effort and endorse the simple answer without scrutiny. This is why we want to build our awareness, right? You won't be stumped. You won't have to work very hard. And you may not even notice that you did not answer the more difficult question that you were asked. Furthermore, you may not realize that the target question was even difficult because the simpler question readily came to mind. Yeah, so I just took a few notes, reading that, of like, this is, I just think especially true with the emotional situations. When the emotions get involved, there's a question that is like emotionally charged or implicated. Like, isn't it, don't you experience that is the case? Like, you'll go through an emotional sort of decision and it just happens on autopilot, right? Whereas like you make decisions, and it can be in any emotional state, right? Like if you're angry, do you ever have it if you're angry, you say something you didn't mean, you're like, I didn't even think about it, right? I think this is really, really kind of a profound space to get into. If we think really deeply, because this is what I think a fasting space offers. Fasting space is like a really profound space to analyze our relationship with food, our relationship with food then and our body, right? This is very profound. Food becomes part of us. Food powers us. Food can be like medicine, both physically and mentally. Think a lot about comfort food we talk about, right? And how do we use food in this kind of complex way, not just to power the body, but to soothe our emotional state. That's like a huge part of it. And so then it's like a dance, right? Between these different purposes of food. And so when we think about a relationship with food, we want, right, healthy food, but then we want a healthy relationship with food. And so I think a lot of times what this is kind of getting at is we have these difficult spaces that we get into, especially if we are looking into our situation, we're trying to lose weight, we're trying to change our relationship with food, because it's so deep in there, deep in our emotional and cognitive life and experience. It takes a lot of awareness to get in there that this sort of thing. See, if you want to change that relationship, change decision-making, see, it's very hard. We got to get way down in there, really into the core of our being. That's some serious mental and emotional work. That's why I think fasting is the type of space where you can do it, because you start to realize, okay, fasting can be like the antidote to some of this. You start to realize like, oh, I'm a very, very strong and powerful being. That's what a human being is. That's what you are. You have significant energy resources and powerful. I want you to see it that way. So many times, like we look at a weight issue, so much judgment has come into it. We feel badly about it. You feel alienated or out of control of your own body because you say, this is me. Shouldn't I be able to control it? Okay, start to realize that there is another side to it. It's energy. It's just an energy equation. And if you have extra energy, is power, to power your body and life. Fasting is a process of opening up space for that, both physically, because now we're actually physically opening the space. The body has to mobilize and use that energy, but then it's right at that middle space. Now we're in that emotional space also. We're to say, what is the relationship with food? Am I answering the easier questions in my life? Like, how do I simply be the most comfortable in this experience right now? Right? Is a much easier question to answer. It's like to eat the thing, right? Than to say, hey, actually, the more difficult question is, how do I take a powerful step forward on this path? Learn to do something difficult that is not really happening in our culture. Opening up a fasting space. Use the autophagy effect to burn through excess. Refine pure health in the body. It's a much more difficult question to ask and even more difficult to actually put into practice. So like, kudos to anybody who is doing that, right? Just give yourself like extra pat on the back, to say, hey, this is powerful physical, emotional space. You should feel very good about that. It is normal to have a struggle. It is normal to not have every step be in the perfectly alignment. It's a practice that you work on. And so I see people doing that. You should be very, very encouraged. It says, look out. Self-criticism is one of the functions of System 2. But then System 2, meaning our conscious awareness, I mean, we could just stop there. Like, isn't that true? Don't we have self-criticism like just happening? Aren't we the most critical with ourselves, ultimately? Do you treat yourself the way you would treat a dear friend? And shouldn't you? I'm talking to myself too. Like, shouldn't we? The other side of it is that our self-criticism can also more commonly be self-justification. That in things we want to change, that we can often seek information that just validates what we're doing instead of having helpful self-criticism. So self-criticism, right, is a double-edged sword, right? We can bludgeon ourselves with it unhelpfully, but we also have to have it if we want to really change and have awareness, right? And then, so just realizing we need a healthy amount of self-criticism that doesn't just endorse decisions that are taking us in a direction that we don't like. If we're not careful, search for information and arguments will be mostly constrained to information that is consistent with our existing beliefs and not with an intention to actually examine them. That's what I'm saying in that space. That fasting space is like a lens that is helping us to really examine our relationship with food. That's can be a very intense thing to do. Like I said, to get really to the emotional core of our relationship with food. Well, I mean, it just is. It's an intense thing to do. And we can approach it in a very calm and thoughtful way. That's the way to approach it. Such an intense thing to do, say, wow, really get into the weeds of a relationship with food because it's intense. That's why we approach it in a thoughtful way. You don't have to dive into it in some, nothing that is overwhelming, just enough that feels like an open, honest exploration and that is taking one step in a day. We can only take one step in a way. Don't try to take 5 steps in a day. Say, maybe it's enough just to write about it. That's what I tell people. Maybe just to think about it. You don't even have to do it. Right? Just to open up the space mentally to say, what would it mean? What does it mean, Fasting space to me. That I'm not so dependent on food. That it's maybe a path that at first blush seems difficult, but is it really? And is it actually a path that's moving in the direction that I want? I did that talk last week. Illusion of easy. There's a lot of things that can look easy that are actually not taking us in the direction we want. And there's things that might appear difficult that really are just things that we aren't familiar with. So that might be a way to think about it for the day. Becoming more familiar with a fasting space, getting used to it, understanding it, seeing, this is just a lens into my emotional experience. We can dial that in just as much as it provides benefit. He ends this section saying, do we still remember the question we were trying to answer, or have we substituted an easier one? So be on the lookout. Are there spaces in life where you think maybe I am answering an easier question than the one that would really be dialing me in a powerful way to take me in the direction that I'm looking for? Always easier to simplify, answer the easier questions, but sometimes, right? And sometimes that's good. And we need to have that system, right? It helps us make the best decisions we can in a difficult, time-constrained environment. Gotta have it. But sometimes we gotta slow down, right? And we gotta, dive deep, answer the deeper question. I think I didn't share you my, did I not show you my joke? I set up a joke for Halloween. So sometimes we got to dive deep. Sometimes we got to, keep things lighter. I will bring our beautiful session to a close here, sharing my little Halloween joke. I'm a dog lover. I got a little doggy. Someone sent me this one. Here's a dog horror show. Dogs going to the movie theater the day no one dropped food on the floor. I got a kick out of this. Look at the dogs' faces. They're all horrified. Oh no. Say it isn't so. All right, do some thinking on this today. This is day 59. 59 days, including today. We're going to step toward better health. We're going to be kind and gentle to ourselves, giving ourselves the most grace and compassion, but being open to some intentional intensity, bringing the appropriate, level that is balancing our mental health, our well-being, using every health tool, movement, healthy food, fasting space, all these things, only to the extent that they are creating better mental health, increased satisfaction, helping us to feel physically and mentally better, refreshed, and excited, energized. That's the mindset that is keeping us moving forward in a sustainable way, so that this just isn't a thing that we're doing, over 2 months and then it falls apart, but we're trying to generate a lifestyle. Whereas to say, hey, this is like a good way of moving through the world, like a way of being. That's why this book, I love so much. A creative act, a way of being. We're trying to create a way of being in the world. Whereas like, this is just what I do, right? This is just how I am. And we put in the hard work to do it. That's what this thing is showing. This book. How do you use our resources to program that state? That's what a habit. That's what a lifestyle becomes. It's like, oh, this is just what we do. That we've thoughtfully created a space so that we can just flow through it. So we keep working on it, taking a step every day. I'm very grateful to have you here. Have a beautiful day, and I will see you back here tomorrow. Have a good one.